The sun was hanging high in the sky over Los Angeles. It was one of those days where the heat seemed to rise right off the pavement. Usually the city was loud with cars honking and people rushing around, but this afternoon felt different. It was strangely peaceful. Keanu Reeves stepped out of his front door, pulling his baseball cap down low over his eyes. He was not wearing his movie star clothes today. Just a simple black t-shirt, a pair of old jeans, and his worn-out boots. He did not want to be noticed. He just wanted to be a regular guy going for a walk. He walked down the sidewalk with his hands in his pockets, his head slightly down. Most people did not recognize him when he dressed like this, or if they did, they were usually respectful and left him alone, which he appreciated. He had a lot on his mind like everyone else. He had his own worries and his own sadness that he carried around, but he tried not to let it weigh him down too much. The fresh air usually helped him clear his thoughts. He took a deep breath and let it out slowly, enjoying the feeling of just being outside without a schedule. The street he lived on was lined with big trees that provided nice shade. As he walked further away from his house, the neighborhood became quieter. He passed by houses with well-kept gardens and parked cars in the driveways. It felt like a normal place where normal people lived their lives. He liked that. He liked seeing kids playing in their yards or dogs barking behind fences. It made him feel connected to the world in a simple way. After walking for about 20 minutes, Keanu turned a corner onto a street he did not visit very often. It was a dead-end street, which meant there was almost no traffic at all. The silence here was broken only by the sound of the wind blowing through the leaves and the distant hum of the city far away. He stopped for a moment to look at a cat sitting on a garden wall. The cat looked at him and then looked away, which made him smile a little. He kept walking, enjoying the peace. Suddenly he saw something bright yellow up ahead near the end of the block. It looked out of place against the gray road and the green grass. As he got closer, he realized it was a small table set up on a driveway. There was a handwritten sign made from a piece of cardboard box attached to the front of the table. The writing was large and messy, done with colorful markers. It said, "Lemonade 50 cents." Behind the table sat a little girl. She looked to be around 9 or 10 years old. She was wearing a bright pink t-shirt and a sun hat that was way too big for her head. It kept sliding down over her eyes, and she had to keep pushing it back up. She had her elbows on the table and her chin in her hands. She was kicking her feet back and forth under the chair, looking very bored. Keanu slowed down his pace. He thought about just walking past and giving her some privacy, but then he saw her face. She looked a little sad sitting there all alone with no customers. He remembered being a kid and trying to do things like sell lemonade or baseball cards and knowing how disappointing it was when nobody stopped. He knew how much effort kids put into these things, so he decided he would stop and buy a cup. He walked up the driveway, and the little girl perked up immediately. She sat up straight and fixed her hat. A big smile appeared on her face. She was happy to finally see a potential customer. Keanu walked up to the table and looked at the setup. There was a large plastic pitcher filled with yellow liquid and a stack of small red paper cups next to it. There was also a glass jar for the money and a smaller a jar with a label on it that he could not read yet from where he was standing. He looked at the girl and smiled. "Hello," he said softly, trying to sound friendly and not scary high.
Yes.
The girl said back enthusiastically, "Would you like to buy some lemonade? It is very good." Keanu chuckled a bit. "Yes," he said, "I think I would." He looked at the pitcher. It looked like it had been made with real lemons because he could see pulp floating in it. It actually looked pretty refreshing. On such a hot day, he could imagine the little girl and her family squeezing lemons in the kitchen earlier, too. "Make it just for this, Standy. We'll take 1 glass, please," he told her. The girl was very excited. She grabbed a red cup with both hands and carefully poured the lemonade from the pitcher. Her tongue was sticking out of the corner of her mouth as she concentrated on not spilling a drop. She filled the cup about halfway and then set it down on the table in front of him. "Here you go," she said proudly. "That will be 50 cents. Please." Keanu looked at the lemonade and then back at the girl. He reached into his pocket to get some change. He usually carried cash just for situations like this. He pulled his hand out of his pocket and looked at what he had. He did not have any quarters or dimes. He only had a folded-up $20 bill. He looked at the bill and then at the little girl. He knew That $20 was a lot of money for a cup of lemonade, he thought. About just giving her the 20 and telling her to keep the change. As a surprise, it would probably make her entire day, maybe. Even her entire week, it was a small thing for him, but a big thing for her. He held the $20 bill out towards the girl here. Go? He said. The little girl looked at the bill. Her eyes got very wide. She stared at it for a moment like she could not believe what she was seeing. Then she looked up at Keanu with a confused look on her face. Sir, she said. I think this is too much money. She pointed at the handwritten sign. It says 50 cents, not $20. Keanu smiled again and tried to push the bill toward her. It is okay, he said. You can keep the change. You are doing a good job here. He expected her to take the money and be happy, but she did not take it instead. She shook her head firmly. My mom says that we have to be fair. She said we cannot take extra money just because people give it. We have to work for what we get. She started looking around frantically on the ground and under the table. I have to find your change, but I do not think I have enough money. Here she looked, so worried about not having the change that Keanu felt bad. He did not want to stress her out, just wanted to do something nice. But it was interesting to him that she was refusing to take the easy money. Most people would have just grabbed it. But she was sticking to her principles. Do not worry about the change, Keanu said, trying to reassure her. Just take it as a tip. No. Sir, she said, crossing her arms over her chest. I cannot do that. She looked very serious all of a sudden. Her playful mood was gone. She looked him right in the eyes, and he saw a maturity in her face that he did not expect from someone so young. There was a silence between them for a moment. Keanu looked at the smaller jar on the table that had a label on it. He leaned in a little closer to read what it said. The letters were written in crayon and spelled out a little bit crookedly. It said hospital bills for Dad. Keanu felt a sudden pang in his chest, looked back at the little girl, and really looked at her this time. He noticed that her shoes looked a little worn out and that her clothes were clean but simple. He realized that this lemonade stand might not just be a game for her. It might be important. He was about to tell her again to just keep the money. When she spoke again, her voice was softer than before, but very clear. My dad is sick, she said, explaining the jar. He has to stay at the hospital, and my mom says medicine costs a lot of pennies, so we are trying to help him. Keanu nodded slowly, understanding the situation now. That is very nice of you to help your dad, he said gently. She looked down at her hands for a second and then looked back up at him. Her eyes seemed to look right through him. She studied his face for a long moment, like she was trying to figure out who he was, or maybe what he was feeling. I know who you are, she said quietly. Keanu froze for a second. He was used to being recognized, but he did not expect it here. He prepared himself for her to ask for a movie or a photo, but she did not do that. She just kept looking at him with a serious expression. You are that movie actor, she said. The one who is always nice in the pictures. Keanu let out a small breath and relaxed a little bit. Yeah, he said, I'm an actor. My dad likes your movies. She continued, he watches them when he is hurting because he says you are a good guy, but he told me something else about you too. Keanu was curious now. He leaned in a little bit. What did he tell you? Little girl took a deep breath. She pointed a small finger at him. He says that you look like a man who has lost a lot of things in your life, she said. Her words were heavy and surprising. Keanu did not know what to say. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. My dad is very good at seeing people, she explained softly. He says that sometimes people who have the biggest smiles are the ones who are the saddest inside. He says you try to help everyone else because maybe nobody was there to help you when you were sad. She stopped talking and let that sink in. The air around them felt still. Keanu stood there looking at this 10-year-old girl who had somehow managed to see straight through to his heart. She did not see a famous celebrity. She did not see a rich man. She just saw a human being who was carrying some pain, just like her dad was. He felt a lump form in his throat. He had met many adults in his life, many smart people who tried to analyze him or understand him, but nobody had ever said anything as true or as simple as what this little girl just said. He stood there on the hot sidewalk, holding a $20 bill, feeling completely seen for the first time in a long time. The silence between them stretched on for a long time. It was not an awkward silence, but a heavy one filled with understanding. The little girl did not look Away she kept her eyes on his face, waiting for him to understand that she was serious. She was not just being polite, she really meant what she said. Keanu felt a strange mix of emotions. He felt a bit exposed because she had seen his sadness so clearly, but he also felt a warm feeling in his chest because she was treating him like a real person and not just a famous actor. He looked at the $20 bill in his hand, and then he looked at her face. She had such a determined look on her face that it reminded him of himself when he was young and stubborn. Listen, he said softly. Really want you to take this? He tried to push the bill towards her again, but she did not move her hands. She shook her head from side to side. No, sir, she said. My mom says that a job is only worth what the sign says it says. 50 cents, so 50 cents. Cents is what it is worth. Keanu looked at her with surprise. He was not used to people arguing with him when he tried to give them money. Most people were happy to take it, but this girl was different. She had a strong sense of pride and fairness. It is not charity, she said softly, looking down at the jar for the hospital bills. My dad is sick, but we are not beggars. We work for our money. He makes the furniture, and I make the lemonade, and my mom works at the store. We do not take what we do not. Ernst pointed to the glass jar on the corner of the table. It was an old pickle jar that had been washed out. The label on it said hospital bills, and inside there were a few crumpled dollar bills and some loose change. It was not very much money. Keanu looked at the jar and then back at the girl. He realized that this stand was very important to her. It was not just a game. It was her way of helping her family see that you work hard, Keanu said kindly. He looked at the pitcher and the cups. It looks like you made a lot of a 40, did, she said, smiling a little bit. I squeezed 10 lemons myself and my mom helped me. Make the sign. Keanu smiled at that. It was good to hear that she had help from her mom. He looked at the $20 bill. One last time, and then he slowly folded it up and put it back into his pocket. If he forced her to take it, he felt like he would be insulting, or he respected her too much to do that. He said, you win, I will pay 50 cents, reached into his pocket again, and this time he pulled out 2 quarters. He placed them on the table in front of her. The girl smiled. Huge, happy smile. She picked up the quarters and dropped them into the jar with a clink sound. Thank you, sir, she said. Keanu picked up the cup of lemonade. It was cold and sweating from the heat. He took a sip, and it was actually very delicious. It was sweet and sour at the same time. Exactly how homemade lemonade should tasteth is really good, he said. Honestly thinks, she said. Again, wiping her hands on her pants, Keanu stood there for a moment, drinking the lemonade. He looked around the quiet street. The sun was starting to go down a little bit, casting long shadows on the ground. He thought about his own life and all the things he had been through. He thought about how much money he had and how little it really mattered in moments. Like Thish looked back at the girl. She was sitting straight now, looking proud that she had made a sale and stood up for her principles. He realized that she had taught him something important in just a few minutes. She taught him that kindness is not just about giving money. It is about respecting people. Me dad says you are a good actor, she said, breaking the silence again. I have never seen your movies, but he says you are very good at pretending to be other people. Keanu laughed. A little bit, that is my job. I pretend to be people I am not. He said, oh, you like it? She asked it. Thought about the question for a moment sometimes. I do, he said. And sometimes it is very tiring. But it is what I do, me dad says. That everyone has a job to do, she said. His job is to make chairs and tables, and my job is to go to school and help mom. Your job is to make movies so people can forget about being sad for a while. Keanu looked at her with amazement. This little girl was very wise for her age. Her father had clearly taught her a lot about life. Sure. Dad sounds like a very smart man, Keanu said, as she said quietly. But he is sleeping a lot now because of the Medici. Keanu felt that pang in his heart again. He knew that sleeping a lot usually meant someone was very sick or in a lot of pain. He wanted to ask more, but he did not want to make her Saudi hope he gets better soon. Keanu said soft lime too. She said she looked at the hospital jar. I hope we can fill this jar up soon so he can come home. Keanu looked at the jar again. It was so empty, and the bills inside were so small. He knew that 50 cents was not going to help very much, but he also knew that he could not just give her the money. Because she would not take it, he had to think of another way to help her without hurting her. Pradee finished his lemonade and crumpled the red cup in his hand. Can I have another? One. He Escotteth girl looked surprised. Nobody ever bought 2 cups of lemonade, especially since they were pretty big cups, really. She Scotty's Keanu said it was so good, I want another one also. I want to help you fill that jar up a little bit more. But the fair waish clapped her hands together. Okay, she said. She picked up another cup and poured him some more lemonade. This time she filled it almost to the top. Careful not to spill, I thought. Will be another 50 cents, please, she said with a big smile. Keanu pulled out 2 more quarters and handed them to her. She put them in the jar and shook the jar a little bit to listen to the coins. Rattle no, you have $1 whole, she said. Happily Keanu smiled at her. $1 at a time, he said. That is the best way to do. Ith stood by the table, drinking his second cup of lemonade. He did not want to leave yet. He felt a strange connection to this little girl and her invisible father. He felt like he was supposed to be here on this street. At this exact time, are you going to be here tomorrow? He asked. Hirsch nodded her head. Yes, sir, I come out every day after school until the sun goes down. My mom says we have to try every day good. Kiana said I might come back tomorrow. Thini would like. That she said my dad would be happy that the movie man came to visit. Keanu felt a lump in his throat again. The movie man he liked, that she did not call him by his name, she called him by what he did. It made him feel useful and important in a way that red carpets and cameras never did. Well, I should let you get back to work, he said, putting the empty cup in the trash can she had next to the table. Thank you for the lemonade, he said. You are welcome, she said, waving goodbye to him. Keanu turned and started walking back down the driveway. He walked slowly, thinking about everything that had just happened. He had only come out for a walk to clear his head. But instead, he had met a little girl who had changed his perspective on everything. Walked past the houses and the trees, but the neighborhood looked different to him now. It seemed more real, more alive. He thought about the little girl sitting alone in the sun with her big hat and her sign. She was so small, but she was so strong. Reached into his pocket and touched the folded $20 bill. He still had it. He thought about how hard it was for him not to just give it to her, but he knew she was right. People need to earn their way. It gives them dignity. He respected her for that more than he could sigh. As he walked further down the street, he saw a car pulling into the driveway of a house. A few doors down, a woman got out. She looked tired. She was wearing a nurse uniform and she was carrying groceries. Keanu watched her for a moment. He wondered if that was her mom. He wondered what it was like to worry about hospital bills every single day. Kept walking until he reached the main road. The noise of the city came back to him, but it did not bother him anymore. He felt a sense of peace that he had not felt in a long time. He knew that he would be back. Tomorrow he would buy another cup of lemonade, and he would talk to the little girl again, maybe. Eventually she would let him do more to help, but for now, he was happy to just be a customer who paid 50 cents. Sun was lower in the sky, now turning orange and pink. Keanu walked towards his house, thinking about the girl and her dad. He thought about the jar with the few coins inside, and he made a promise to himself that he would help her fill it up, but he would do it her way, 1 cup at a time. Keanu woke up the next morning with a plan in his mind. He did not have to go to a movie set that day, so he had plenty of free time. He thought about the little girl with the big sun hat and the homemade lemonade stand. He thought about the glass jar for the hospital bills that was sitting almost empty on the table. He felt a strange pull in his chest to go back. There it was, unusual for him because he usually liked to stay away from people when he was not working, but this felt different. It felt important, like he was supposed to be there. Got dressed quickly and put on his baseball cap again to keep his face hidden. He walked out of his front door and locked it behind him. The air was already warm, even though it was still early. In the morning the sun was bright, and the sky was a clear, deep blue. He walked down the sidewalk with a fast pace. He wanted to see if she was there today. He hoped she was. When he turned the corner onto her quiet street, he saw the yellow table right away. It was set up in the same spot as yesterday. The little girl was sitting there, but she looked different today. She was holding a thick book and reading it, but she looked a little bit sad. She was not kicking her feet or smiling like she did yesterday. She looked lonely and a bit tired. Keanu walked up the driveway slowly, and she looked up. Her face changed instantly. When she saw him coming, she put her book down and pushed her hat back so she could see him better. You came back, she said, sounding surprised and happy. Told you I would. Keanu said, smiling a warm smile at Harry did not think. You really would, she said. Honestly, most people say they will come back, but they forget. I am a man of my word, Keanu said. He walked up to the table and looked at the lemonade pitcher. It was still full to the top, which meant nobody had bought anything yet. Today business. Is slow today, he asked. Hirsch nodded her head yes. Very slow. She looked down at the glass jar on the table. Only one person stopped this morning, and he bought a small cup canoe. Felt bad for her, he knew. How hard it was to sit and wait for people who never came. He looked at the house behind her. The windows were dark and the blinds were drawn tight. It looked very quiet inside. He wondered where her dad was, and if her mom was sleeping inside because she worked at night. Well, he said, I am very thirsty, so business is about to get better. Smiled a little bit and picked up a clean red cup, same price as yesterday. 50 cents. Got it, Keanu said. He reached into his pocket and pulled out 2 quarters again and placed them on the table carefully. She poured the lemonade and handed it to him. He took a long drink. It was cold and refreshing, just as good as the day before. He leaned his back against the wooden fence next to the table. He did not want to leave yet. He wanted to talk to her some Moreto. You like reading? He asked, pointing at the book she had put down. She looked at the book and picked it up. Yes, it is a story about a girl who goes to the moon, she said. My dad used to read stories to me every night, but now he is in the hospital, so I read to him in my head. It's a very nice thing to do, Keanu said. I bet he likes thought. He hopes so, she said. She looked at Keanu with a curious look on her face. My dad told me to ask you something. Keanu looked at her. What does Thath ask me to ask? You, if you are still sad, she said softly. He thinks that you are still carrying a heavy suitcase full of rocks wherever you go. Keanu was stunned again. This little girl and her father were seeing things that nobody else could see. They could see past his smile and his famous face and look right into his heart. He looked down at his boots and felt a tightness in his chest. He did not talk about his private life with strangers, but somehow it felt safe with here. Your dad is very smart. He said quietly. No, she said, but are you still sad? Keanu took a deep breath and let it out slowly. He thought about his daughter who was gone and his partner who had passed away. He thought about the empty spaces in his big house and the quiet moments that were hard to fill. He said, honestly, I am still sad sometimes. Why? She asked. Because you have everything. Keanu looked at her and shook his head slowly. No, he said, I do not have everything. Money does not fix a broken heart, and being famous does not bring people back to life. Looked at him thoughtfully. She was just a child, but she listened like an adult. She did not interrupt or look away. She just listened and understood me. Dad says that pain is like a guest. She said sometimes it comes to visit and stays for a long time. But you still have to open the door and let the fresh air in. You cannot lock the door and hide in the dark. Forever. Keanu felt tears stinging his eyes. That was such a beautiful and wise thing to say. He quickly wiped his eye with his sleeve so she would not see him cry. Her dad is a very wise man, he said. He is the best, she said proudly. Keanu looked at the jar again. It still had hardly any money in it. He looked at the house. It looked like it needed some paint, and the wooden fence was leaning over to one side. I had an idea. Can I help you with something? He asked. I am not just a movie actor. I can also do real work. The girl laughed. You want to do works? Keanu said. I see that your fence is falling down, and your porch looks like it needs sweeping. Mom is sleeping, she said. She works nights, so I cannot wake her up. Good, Keanu said. We will be very quiet. Then her finished his lemonade and put the cup down on the table. He walked over to the fence post that was leaning heavily. He grabbed it with both hands. It was loose in the dirt. He pushed it back into the ground and used his foot to stamp the dirt down hard around it. He looked for some big rocks nearby and piled them around the base of the post to make it sturdy. Girl watched him with wide eyes. You are really doing it, she said. He told you. I was real, he said, smiling over his shoulder. Spent the next hour doing small jobs around the front of the house. He swept the dusty porch steps carefully and quietly, so he would not wake anyone. He tightened loose screw on the lemonade table, so it would not wobble anymore. He even trimmed some of the bushes that were blocking the sidewalk so people could see the sign better. Girl sat and watched him sometimes. She helped by holding the dustpan or handing him a rock. They did not talk much. They just worked together. It was nice. It was a peaceful kind of work that made him feel useful in a simple way. When he was done, he stood back and looked at the house. It looked better, the fence was straight, the porch was clean, and the lemonade stand was steady. There, he said. That is better. The girl stood up and walked over to the fence. She touched the rocks that he had piled around the post. Thank you, she said. My mom will be so surprised when she wakes up. It was my pleasure, Keanu assured me. Dad would be happy too, she said. He likes it when things are fixed. Keanu looked at her. He felt a connection to this family that he could not explain. He realized that by helping them, he was actually helping himself. The heavy suitcase of rocks he was carrying felt a little bit lighter. Tadiyar, you going to come back tomorrow? She asked him. Keanu looked at the sky. The sun was starting to go down, and the air was getting cooler. Rise, he said. I think I will come back every day until I see your dad come home. Ash looked at him with a serious face. That is a long time, she said. That is okay, Keanu said. I have plenty of time. Waved goodbye to her and walked down the street. He felt tired but good. He felt like he had a purpose again. Helping this little girl and her family was more important than any movie role he could play. As he walked away, he thought about what she said about opening the door to let the fresh air in. He realized that he had been keeping his door closed for a long time. Today he had opened it just a crack, and it felt good. Knew that tomorrow he would bring his toolbox. Maybe he could fix the loose step on the porch, or maybe he would just drink lemonade and talk. He did not know what tomorrow would bring. But for the first time in a long time, he was looking forward to finding out. The next few days went by very fast. Keanu found himself looking forward to his afternoon walks more than he had looked forward to anything in a long time. It became a routine for him. He would leave his house in the late afternoon, when the sun was not too hot anymore, and walk down the familiar streets with a small tool bag in his hand. Would turn the corner and see the bright yellow table and the little girl sitting under her big sun hat. She was always waiting for him now, and she always had a big smile ready when she saw him coming. Bought lemonade every day, and every day he drank it while he worked on small projects around the house. He had fixed the fence and swept the porch. But there was always something else that needed to be done. One day he noticed that the mailbox was hanging sideways, so he took it down and screwed it back on tight so the mail carrier could find it easily. Another day he saw that the garden hose was leaking, so he went to the hardware store and bought a new washer to fix it. Girl would sit on the steps and watch him work sometimes. She read her book out loud to him so he would not get bored while he was fixing things. Her voice was small and steady, and it made the work feel relaxing. Felt like he was part of their family in a small, quiet way. He did not have to pretend to be anyone else here. He did not have to be the action hero or the cool actor. He was just a man who knew how to use a screwdriver and wanted to help. One afternoon when he arrived, the sky looked like it was going to rain heavy. Gray clouds were rolling in over the hills, and the air smelled like rain. The girl was not at the table. When he walked up the driveway, which worried him a little bit, he saw that the lemonade pitcher was covered with a towel to keep the bugs away. But the chair was empty. Stood there for a moment, wondering if he should go knock on the door or if he should just leave. But before he could turn around, the front door opened slowly. A woman stepped out onto the porch. She looked tired, very tired. She had dark circles under her eyes, and her hair was pulled back in a messy bun. She was wearing scrubs like the ones nurses wear. Looked surprised to see a tall man standing in her driveway with a tool. Bigelow, she said cautiously. Can I help you with something, Ken? Took his hat off so she could see his face better. I am here for the lemonade, he said. Soft-little woman looked at him, and then at the empty table. Oh, she said, my daughter is inside getting more ice. She will be right back. I am sorry she is bothering you. She is not bothering me, Keanu said quickly. I come every day. I enjoy talking to her. The woman looked at him more closely. Her eyes went wide when she realized who he was. Oh my gosh, she said, putting a hand over her mouth. You are him, Keanu. Smiled a little bit. Yes, I am Keanu. The woman looked embarrassed. She smoothed her hair and looked down at her feet. I am so sorry, she said. I did not know she was pestering a movie star. She is just so lonely sometimes with her father being away. Keanu shook his head seriously. Please do not apologize. He said she is a wonderful girl. She is smart and kind, and she is helping me as much as I am helping her. The woman looked at him with tears in her eyes. Really? She asked Adrelli. Keanu said he walked over to the porch steps but did not go up them. He wanted to respect her space. Your husband is a very wise man, he said. He is taught. Her so much woman let out a shaky breath. She sat down on the top step and looked out at the street. He is a good man, she said softly. It is so hard without him here. The bills are piling up and the house is falling apart, and I am trying to work as much as I can, but it feels like we are drowning. Keanu listened to her. He did not interrupt. He just stood there and let her talk. He knew that sometimes people just need someone to listen to them. Feel like I am failing them, she said, wiping a tear from her cheek. I cannot fix the house, and I cannot make him better. Keanu put his tool bag down gently on the ground. You are not failing them, he said. Look at your daughter. She is brave and polite and strong. That is because of you and your husband. She is not drowning. She is waiting for him to come home. It's just like you. A wreathy woman looked at him, and for the first time she smiled, a weak but real smile. Thank you, she whispered. Just then the little girl came running out the front door. With a bowl of ice in her hands, she stopped when she saw her mom and Keanu talking to them. She said, you are home. Early just came to check on you, sweetie, her mom said. Girl looked at Keanu and then at her mom. She put the ice down on the table and ran over to her mom, hugging her legs tight. Keanu watched them. He felt a warmth in his chest that he had not felt in years. It was a feeling of connection and hope. He realized that this is what he had been missing. This is what life was really about. Not the money or the fame, but the small moments of helping each other. The dad is coming home tomorrow, the girl said, looking up at Keanu. The doctor called and said he can come home for a little while to restate. Is wonderful news, Keanu said, feeling truly happy for them. Will you still come visit? The girl asked him when he is Haroic, looked at her and then at her mom. If it is okay with your mom, I would love to meet your dad. Mom nodded her head yes. She said he would love to meet you too. He always says you are the good guy in the movies, but I think you are the good guy in real life. Keanu felt his face turn red. He was not used to such honest compliments. I am just a person, he said. Just like anyone else. Well, you are a person who has made a big difference to us, the mom said, standing up. You fixed our fence, and you gave my daughter someone to talk to, and you made me feel like I am not alone. Anu picked up his tool bag. I will come back tomorrow, he said, and I will bring some tools to fix that loose railing on the porch before your dad gets here, so he does not trip on it. The little girl clapped her hands and jumped up and down. Yes, she yelled. Keanu waved goodbye and walked back down the driveway. The first drop of rain hit his arm, but he did not mind. He walked with a lightness in his step that was not there before he realized that the little girl was right about opening the door to let the fresh air in. He had spent so much time in the dark being sad but helping. This family had let the light back in. He thought about the days ahead, and he felt hopeful for the first time in a long time. He knew that there would still be sad moments, and life was not a fairy tale, but he also knew that he could handle it as long as he remembered what he learned on that quiet street with a lemonade stand. Rain started to come down harder, but Keanu did not run. He just kept walking with a smile on his face. The world felt bigger and brighter now, and he was ready to be part of it again. The morning sun was shining brightly when Keanu walked up the driveway for the last time. He was carrying his tool bag, just like he had done for the past week. But today felt different. The air smelled fresh and clean, like hope was returning too. This little street he had spent the last few days fixing small things around the house to get it ready for the father to come home, and the house looked good. Now it looked like a place where a family could be happy. Walked up to the porch and saw the little girl sitting on the top step. She was wearing her favorite dress, and she had brushed her hair very neatly. She looked nervous but excited. She was swinging her legs back and forth, and she smiled big when she saw Keanu coming. You are here, she said, jumping up. He would not miss it, Keanu said, smiling back at her. He set his tool bag down on the porch floor as the railing, all Danish, pointed at the wooden railing that ran along the side of the steps. It used to be loose and wobbly, but Keanu had spent yesterday afternoon tightening every screw and sanding down the rough spots. Now it was strong and smooth. It is perfect. She said, thank you for fixing it. Keanu nodded. Your dad will be safe now, he said. Just then, a car turned the corner and drove slowly down the street. It was not a fancy car, just a simple family car. The little girl stood up very straight and held her hands together in front of her chest. She watched the car pull into the driveway. The engine turned off and the doors opened. The mother stepped out first. She looked tired, but there was a big smile on her face. She walked around to the other side and opened the back door slowly. A man stepped out. He was thin, and he moved slowly. He was leaning on a cane. But he stood up straight and took a deep breath of the air, like he was happy to be home. Keanu stood back near the lemonade table. He did not want to get in the way of their family moment. He just wanted to watch from a distance. But the little girl had other plans. She ran down the steps and grabbed her dad by the hand. "Dad, look," she said, pointing at Keanu. "That is the man I told you about, the movie Manthe." Father looked up and saw Keanu. Standing there, he did not look surprised. He just smiled. A warm and gentle smile. He let go of his daughter's hand and walked slowly up the driveway towards the porch. Keanu felt a little bit shy. He was used to people running up to him and asking for autographs or pictures, but this man walked towards him slowly with respect and quiet conishilo. The father said when he got close enough, his voice was raspy, but soft. "Fellow Keanu said, it is very good to meet you." "I have heard a lot about youth," father chuckled. "I have heard a lot about you too." He said, "My daughter tells me you are a very handy man with a toolkit and that you make excellent lemonade." Customers. Keanu laughed. "Well, I try my best." Father looked around the porch and the yard. "I see what you have done here," he said. "The fence is straight, the mailbox is fixed, the porch looks new." He looked at Keanu with tears in his eyes. "Oh, you did not have to do any of these." "No," Keanu said, "but I wanted to help." Father nodded slowly. He reached out and put a hand on Keanu's shoulder. His grip was weak, but his touch was firm and grounding. "My wife told me what you said," he said, "about being sad. She told me that you are carrying a heavy suitcase." Keanu looked down. "Yes." The father squeezed his shoulder. "Gently, pain is a strange thing." He said, "It feels like it will break you, but it also shows you what is important." "I used to make furniture," he said. "I know that when you build something, you have to sand it down to make it smooth. Life is like that. The rough times sand us down and make us smoother." Keanu listened to every word. He felt like this stranger was teaching him the most important lesson of his life. "Oh, have a good heart," the father said, "but you have been hiding it away behind a wall. It takes a brave man too." "Take the wall down." The little girl came and stood next to her dad. She took his hand. "I told you he was a good guy, Dad," she said. "He know?" "He did." "Sweetheart," he said. He looked back at Keanu. "Thank you for being a friend to my family when I could not be." Haroic felt a lump in his throat. He realized that he was not just doing charity work, he was making real friends. The three of them stood there on the porch for a long time, just enjoying the sun and the peace. "Well," Keanu said, breaking the silence, "I think there is some lemonade left. I should buy one last cup before I go." Father smiled. "I think I would like a cup too." He said so. They all sat down on the porch steps, Keanu on one side, the father in the middle, and the little girl on the other side. The mother brought out some cups, and they all drank the sweet lemonade together. They talked about simple things. They talked about the weather and the neighborhood and the book the girl was reading. They did not talk about movies or hospitals. They just talked like normal piaplias. The sun started to go down. The sky turned orange and purple. It was time for Keanu to go. He stood up and brushed the dust off his pants. He'd have to go now. He saddened. The little girl looked sad. "Will you come back?" Keanu looked at her and then at her parents. "I will be around," he said. "But I think you have your dad back now, and you do not need me to fix things." "Maru still wants you to come back," the mother said. "You are part of our family now." Keanu felt so warm inside. He had not felt this kind of love in a very long time. He realized that helping them had healed a broken part of himself that he thought would never be fixed. The heavy suitcase he was carrying felt much lighter now, almost weightlessy. "We'll come by next week," Keanu promised. "I will bring some cookies next time." The father stood up and shook his hand. "Take care of yourself," he said. "Remember to let the fresh air in." "He will." Keanu Sadie walked down the driveway and waved goodbye to them. One last time they were all sitting on the porch watching him go. They looked like a perfect picture of a happy family. As Keanu walked down the street, he did not feel like a movie star. He did not feel like a sad man. He felt like just Keanu, a human being who was connected to the world around him. He took a deep breath and looked up at the stars that were starting to appear in the sky. He knew that life would still have hard days. He knew that sadness would come back sometimes, but he also knew that he did not have to face it alone. He had learned that even a small act of kindness like buying a cup of lemonade could change a life. He had gone to buy a drink, But he had walked away with so much more. He had found his smile again, walked towards his home with his hands in his pockets and a lightness in his step. The city noises did not bother him anymore. They just sounded like life going on, and he was ready to be part of it again.